everyone. So this week's lesson is on the trench system. Now I've had to adapt this a little bit because in class this would normally take a couple of lessons, and this is your only lesson for the week because next week you are going to be given a big piece of work as well as some source skills to practice. So the topic for today is looking at the trench system. Now last week you should have looked at a how fully and an explain question, and you should also have done the work on why Scots joined up for the war in the first place. So why did young Scots men and British men join up to fight in World War I in 1914? Now we've looked at the reasons for that, so now we're going to look at what did they actually find once they were in the trenches and what even was a trench. So your learning intentions for this week are to describe the different features of a typical trench. Now there are 3 videos that you'll need to watch, and I've put the links, or I will put the links below this YouTube video that you can click on that will take you to the videos that you will need to watch and do some challenges and questions on. Now before you do anything, can you make sure that you put a title, the trench system, and you write down your learning intentions, just so that you know what this topic is about or what this lesson is about. Okay, moving on. Your very first challenge, because there are some keywords that you need to know, is to write down these 3 words on the left-hand side of your document. So you've got offensive, you've got defensive, and you've got stalemate. Now, on this side, on the right-hand side, you have got 3 definitions. Now they're mixed up, so what your first challenge is to write down the word offensive and match it to the correct definition. So what does the word offensive mean? Do the same for defensive. What does the word defensive mean? And stalemate, what does the word stalemate mean? So that's your first challenge for this lesson. Go ahead and do that just now. You might want to pause this to have the words on the screen and then start to play so that we can move on. So, as you are now aware, war broke out in 1914, August 1914, and initially it was a war of movement. It was an offensive war. Now, the British Army, the French Army, the German Army, the Russian Army, they all believed that it would be a quick war, it would be over by Christmas, and they thought it would be a kind of traditional, you attack your enemy, you defeat your enemy, and the war ends. However, as the Germans were advancing into France, they were halted at the Battle of the Marne, and they failed to capture the Channel ports at the Battle of Ypres. Now, because of this, the Germans decided to dig in, to hold the land they had taken. Now, they started to build trenches, which you're going to become familiar with over this lesson. So they held their positions and they dug in. Now, what that resulted in was the trench system that we have all become familiar with. Trenches and stalemate. Now, you'll notice that there are some words, offensive and stalemate, that you should have now been aware of the meanings. Now, if you want to check your answers, you can always Google. So Google the definition of stalemate, offensive and defensive so that you know that you're correct. Now, your first task is to watch this video and answer the questions on the next slide. So this video quite nicely takes you through what an actual trench had in it. So what were some of the defensive mechanisms of a trench? Where did the soldiers live? What did a trench look like? What were some of these things that we're seeing on the screen? So for example, these things here, or these things here. What's this step called? What's this bit here for? So this video, if you click on the link that's below the YouTube video, the links on this won't work, and I was hoping that the video was going to play as I was given this presentation, but it doesn't. So you'll need to go out and click on the link to this first video here. Now what I'd like you to do, you can do this as you're watching the video, or you can watch the video first and then go back, is to answer the following question. There are only 5, but you will need the video from the previous slide. So question 1, what were the 2 countries the trench system ran through? So you need to name the 2 countries that the trenches were in. Google trench cross system and copy and paste onto your Word document or your workbook, wherever you're doing your work, so that you've got a copy of what the inside of a trench looked like. You will get a variety of pictures, so you might want to try and find one similar to the one that you've seen in this video. If you're doing it in your jotter with pen and paper, sketch the trench on the previous slide. Question 3, what were the underground bunkers used for? Question 4, why were trenches zigzag and not straight? And question 5, how did German trenches differ from British trenches? And give 2 reasons. Moving on. This here is an aerial view taken from a plane as to what the trench system looked like from above. As you can see, the trenches are zigzagged, so they are not in straight lines. And you will be aware of why that is from the previous activity that you've just done. I'm not going to run too much into depth in this. It was just to give you a view of the real life trenches as they could be seen from up above. Now, the next diagram here, this is the Western Front stretching from Belgium in the north to Switzerland in the south. So you've got the north here with Belgium, France, and Switzerland down here at the bottom. Germany is here. And these coloured dots all represent the different troops. So yellow represents the German army, purple represents the French army, red is the British, and orange is the Belgian army. Now again, this map was just to give you a rough idea of what and where the trenches ran through. Britain is up here, so that our little island is off the map. So we're all pretty close. France, Germany, Belgium. You've got Luxembourg here in the middle, Belgium here, France here, Switzerland and Germany. And again, that was just to give you an idea. Each coloured square, so one square itself is 50,000 men. And that was just to give you a numerical number as to roughly how many each battalion, each country had along the Western Front. Now, your next task is another video task, and you don't need to do anything with this. This one is looking at the trench system. It's a reconstructed trench down south, actually, in England. And Dan Snow, who is a historian, and he's got a lot of videos online about World War I, if you want to Google Dan Snow World War I. This is looking at some conditions in the trenches. Now, you're going to be doing more work on this next week, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking through this. But this gives you a much better idea of what the trench shape was like, and it lets you have a little bit of a glimpse at the conditions that soldiers were living in. So it's really good to watch. Just watch it. Again, the link will be below this YouTube video for you to click into that because you can't access it through this. And all I want you to do is take some notes on some of the things that you find interesting about the clip. It could be what the soldiers are wearing, the conditions, any little bits of information that Dan Snow gives, but it's a good account using primary footage, so eyewitness footage, of what the trenches were like in 1914 and 1915 and 1916. This is taken from 1916, 2 years into the war. So this here, if we were in school, I would give you all a copy of this, because what we do is we colour it in and we label it and we talk about it, but it shows you a lot of stuff that's going on in the trenches. Now, all I want you to do with it is cast your eye, have a look, take your time and read in some of the things that are pointed out. If you really want to make a sketch, you can make a sketch, but you don't have to. What I would like you to do though, and your challenge is on the next slide, is using this, and this is warfare on the Western Front. So using this, I would like you to do 3 things. I would like you to write down any weapons that you may see in the slide previous. I want you to write down anything that would make conditions in the trenches horrible. So what are the trenches like? And I'd like you to write down any trench equipment. So for example, sandbags. Now you might want to go and pause or you will need to pause the clip from the previous slide so that you can look at it properly. Write down somewhere online on your Word document in class notebook, or write down in your jotter the 3 things you need to look for. So weapons, what would make the conditions in the trenches horrible, and the trench equipment, so that you can make notes using the picture from the previous one. And your challenge 4, below there are going to be 6 advantages and disadvantages of the trenches. What I'd like you to do is, on the left hand side, write down advantages, on the right hand side of your Word, your class notebook, your jotter, disadvantages, and sort these 6 under the correct heading. So you've got advantages here, you'll have 1, 2, 3. You've got disadvantages here. You'll have 1, 2, 3. Excuse my handwriting there. I'm using the mouse. It's a little bit more difficult than it looks. So advantages and disadvantages. These here are some advantages and disadvantages of the trenches. You need to sort them into what's an advantage and what's a disadvantage. Nice and straightforward. So, now that you've looked at what a trench system was like and what a trench system, how a trench was built and how it affected soldiers' lives, daily lives, what the soldiers' dugouts were like, some weapons that were used. One of the most terrifying moments of a soldier's life was going over the top. And when an attack was planned, the soldiers called it going over the top because they literally went over the top of the trenches. Now, usually, the enemy's trench would have been bombarded for a few days before, so it would have been bombed with heavy artillery. Now, when it was time for the soldiers to go over the top, a whistle would be blown and the soldiers would attack. What I want you to do is note down this slide, so put as a subtitle going over the top and then write down these 3 sentences here. Now, to give you an idea of what that looked like, I've got a great 10-minute clip from a film called The Trench. Now, again, the link will be below. You don't need to do anything with this. Again, it's just something really great to watch. It's from a film. It's from 1960, and again, 2 years into the war. It shows you the trenches. It shows you going over the top. It will show you some of the weapons. It will show you some of the fears of the soldiers, and it will hopefully bring alive this little bit here. If you want to watch more World War I films, I'm going to create a list at some point of things on Netflix or Prime or on YouTube of films that you can watch. I love showing you guys films about World War I in the classroom. We would have watched some when you did a little World War I project in S1 or 2. That seems so long ago now. The Trench does have a 15 or 18 rating, I think. I think it's a 15. So this clip is totally fine for you to watch. Other films you will have heard of, and I will make a list of that and post it onto the website and onto Teams as well. So now that you've done all those challenges, looking back at the learning intentions and the success criteria for today, the main aim of this lesson was for you to describe the different features of a typical trench. So what did a trench look like? What was in it? What was a trench system? You should, by the end of this lesson, be able to describe at least 5 features of a trench. You will have way more, but at least 5 was the minimum. It was kind of like your bronze of National 4 or 5. You will have a lot more, and hopefully you will feel a little bit more confident in describing what a trench system was. Next week, we're going to get into the really, really cool stuff when we look at what life was like for soldiers in the trenches, and this is dead interesting. And I will set you a film to watch for this next week, and I'll also set you work to do, but it is going to be kind of project based. I want you to spend some time on it and to find it dead interesting. So next week's going to be trench conditions, trench life. There will be a couple of source skills, and I'll put up some recommendations for films at the same time. Now, as always, I'm on Teams throughout the week. I'm specifically on for an hour every Tuesday, 11 till 12. If you want to come and speak to me, please do. I just spoke to one of you this morning, which is great to hear your voice. If you need any help, email me, message me on Teams. I'm more than happy to help. Hope you're all well. Hope you're all staying safe. Hope you are giving yourself a break and not stressing too much about school. And I shall chat to you very soon.